Hello and welcome. Rishi Sunak has become the first leadership contender to secure the 100 nominations by Tory MPs needed to enter the race to be the next Prime Minister. The former Chancellor has yet to announce whether he will launch a fresh bid for the top job after losing to Liz Truss over the summer. Meanwhile, Boris Johnson has flown home from holiday as supporters rally behind a potential comeback by the former Prime Minister. So far, Penny Mordaunt is the only contender to have actually officially launched a campaign. Hopefuls have until Monday afternoon to find 100 backers. Our political correspondent, Helen Catt, has more.
Good morning, Mr Sunak. Are you running for leadership?
He's got the numbers to get on the ballot paper, and Rishi Sunak is expected to declare his candidacy soon. The former Chancellor now has more than 100 MPs publicly backing him to be the Prime Minister. The big question in Westminster is now if his former boss will try to join him. Boris Johnson, returning from a holiday, is up for running again, according to one ally. The wheels of his plane may barely have touched down, but he's likely to be under pressure to decide quickly.
We've seen in the last few days is some of the MPs who resigned, some of the MPs who called for Boris to go at the start of the summer have now said that they would like to see him put himself forward. They've admitted that they were wrong, and I know that there are many others waiting to hear on if he makes a decision to run before they go public.
Others don't agree. The return of Mr Johnson could, the former Conservative leader William Hague suggested, send the party into a death spiral.
There does seem to be a real mix between those who are really enthusiastic about the idea of a return for Boris Johnson and those who are frankly appalled at the prospect. But some are saying there is a practical challenge to any bid by him to become Prime Minister again, and that is that in the next few months he's going to face an investigation by Parliament's Privileges Committee into whether he misled the House of Commons in what he said about parties at Downing Street.
I think the country needs a Prime Minister that is focused 100% on them. And I just don't see as a practical matter that can be Boris if he's then dealing with all of those issues. And I say that as someone who would love to see Boris return to frontline politics. I think he can, but I don't think he can until he's addressed those issues.
Penny Mordaunt is the only candidate to so far have actually confirmed she's running. Her public backers are still far short of 100 at this stage.
Well, I'm backing Penny because she's the candidate, I think, that can not only just bring the Conservative Party and Parliament together, but actually the whole country. She's got a proven track record working across 8 departments in her 12 years in Parliament. And I think her background really makes her well placed to connect with people.
By this time next week, barring any major surprises, one of these 3 people will be the Prime Minister. Until then, the race to gain support continues. Helen Catt, BBC News.
Well, what do voters make of what's been happening in Westminster? Jessica Lane has been talking with people in the Conservative constituency of Penistone and Stocksbridge in South Yorkshire.
As MPs are back in their constituencies this weekend, many will find out if what's happening in Westminster is the talk of their town.
I think that we've lost faith in all the politicians, Labour or Conservative, and I think it's time that we need to get a bit more stance within the country again.
Bit of stability back.
I've been in Spain last week on holiday, and all the Spanish people and German people keep saying, what's wrong with your country?
Well, we've been talking nothing else for the last few days.
It is the backstabbing, and that's the problem.
This constituency has this rural market town of Penistone, as well as the industrial steelworks in Stocksbridge nearby. It's a red wall seat, so it only turned Conservative in 2019. The local MP, Miriam Cates, says she has huge admiration for Boris Johnson, but she's backing Rishi Sunak for leader. But some business owners say they're more bothered about getting support, and soon.
The main thing is energy bills at the moment. That's what's crippling us. Our quarterly has gone up from £270 to £990 for 3 months. For a little shop like this, it's difficult.
Is that electric and gas?
Just electric. We've got no gas, so it's crippling us big time. So stuff like that needs sorting out.
Whatever does happen over the next few days, it's certainly giving people a topic to chew over here. Jessica Lane, BBC News in Penistone.
Currently, the BBC estimates 168 out of 357 Tory MPs have gone public with their support. As we've been hearing, Rishi Sunak has passed the key threshold of 100 backers. Boris Johnson has 46 and Penny Mordaunt has 21. It is worth pointing out that these are the numbers the BBC can verify. Others may have different information. Our political correspondent Helen Catt is with me now. What happens next, Helen?
Well, Monday at 2 p.m. is the deadline to get those 100 backers. So over the weekend, what we'll see is a lot more of those phone calls, of that behind the scenes trying to drum up support. And that has been the feature of this leadership contest. It's mostly happening away from the cameras, behind the scenes. But what we'll also expect to get over the course of the weekend, soon we're expecting to get some sort of confirmation that Rishi Sunak his confirmation of his candidacy. We'll expect to hear some sort of decision from Boris Johnson over this weekend. Once you get to Monday at 2 p.m, if there are 3 candidates who have 100 backers, there'll be a vote of MPs in the afternoon to whittle it down to 2, then an indicative vote of MPs to show the weight of support, and then it will be up to the Conservative members to vote in an online ballot with the result announced on Friday. But this could all be over as soon as Monday evening, because if only one candidate clears that 100 threshold, then they will automatically become the Conservative leader and the new Prime Minister.
Thank you, Helen. A 12-year-old boy has died after a wall collapsed at a house in Essex. Emergency services were called to the property in Clacton last night after a garage attached to a house collapsed. A man in his 30s was pulled from the rubble with an arm injury. A range of Avanti West Coast rail services will be cut throughout the day amid strike action by train managers. Just one train an hour will run from London to Manchester, Liverpool and Glasgow. The RMT union says the strike is the culmination of months of neglect. There have been some extraordinary scenes at China's ruling Communist Party Congress, with the former Chinese leader Hu Jintao being led out of the closing ceremony in Beijing. Mr. Hu was sitting beside President Xi Jinping when he was approached by officials who took him by the arm and led him away. It's not clear what was behind the move during what's usually a highly choreographed event. Airstrikes have hit critical infrastructure in central and western Ukraine as Russia continues to target the country's energy grid. Almost a third of the country's power stations have been destroyed in a wave of airstrikes since Monday last week. Ukrainian officials say many Russian cruise missiles have been intercepted by air defence systems. Now, time for the sport. We can get the latest from Sarah Mulkerrins at the BBC Sports Centre. Hi there.
Hi, Joanna. Thank you. Good afternoon. Scotland have been knocked out of the Rugby World Cup after a big defeat to host New Zealand. Wales also lost, but their qualification to the last 8 is still a possibility. Lydia Campbell was watching the action.
In theory, the task was simple for Wales. Beat Australia and they'd be through to the quarter-finals. But the Aussies were also competing for automatic qualification, and they took an early lead when Elisiva Badabasinga shimmied her way under the posts. Wales drew level when Sinead Harry stretched over the line after a driving maul, and from there Wales restricted Australia to just 2 penalties, with the match finishing 13-7. The defensive effort handed Wales a losing bonus point, but they'll have to wait on other results to find out if it's enough to see them through. There aren't many things more intimidating than facing New Zealand on their home turf. First you have the haka, then you have to try and stop one of the greatest teams in world rugby. Unfortunately for Scotland, this was too much. The Black Ferns had their first try inside 2 minutes. By half-time, New Zealand had scored 7. By full-time, it was 9. Final score, New Zealand 57, Scotland 0, with the Bravehearts heading home. For Scotland, the road may have come to an end, but for Wales, their dream lives on for now. Lydia Campbell, BBC News.
Well, at the Rugby League World Cup, Scotland were hammered 84-0 by holders Australia for their second loss in the tournament. Later today, England could all but secure a quarter-final place with victory over France. And our reporter, Adam Wild, is in Bolton for us. Adam.
Sarah, yeah, very much a sense for England that the real hard work was done last weekend with that opening day victory over Samoa. That, for many, was the real test of this group stage. The test they, of course, passed with flying colours with that emphatic victory. France this afternoon, well, they pose a very different challenge. England are expected to win. They're expected to win well. But apart from that result, it's the performance that really matters. That victory last weekend has afforded head coach Shaun Wane the luxury of rotating his side. He'll bring in the likes of the Salford pairing, Andy Ackers and Mark Sneyd, as well as bringing back the hugely experienced Ryan Hall. The challenge then for England is to keep improving, but also to keep that momentum going as they rotate their squad and head into the knockout stages. We're expecting a big crowd here in Bolton. Kick-off's at 5 o'clock.
Looking forward to it. Adam Wilde at Bolton for us. To another World Cup now. This time it's going to be the Women's Football World Cup, which takes place in Australia and New Zealand next year. The draw has been made and European champions England will face Denmark and China, as well as either Senegal, Haiti or Chile in Group D. The Lionesses will be based in Australia with group games in Brisbane, Sydney and Adelaide.
As we said in the Euros, that's going to be the case also in the World Cup. Very good opponents. Every country is improving so much. It's going to be really tight. So, yes, it should be a very great tournament next summer. And I hope we'll be successful again.
And the Republic of Ireland have a tough group for their first World Cup appearance. They will face co-hosts Australia, Olympic gold medalist Canada and Nigeria in their group. And you can follow England's first match at the T20 Cricket World Cup on the BBC Sport website. Afghanistan batting first, 91 for 4 at the moment. You can also keep across the day's football there. That's it from me.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And you can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel throughout the day. The next news on BBC One is at 5:20. Bye-bye from now.